All right, we'll get started. I think there's some still joining, but good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's educational session on encouraging employees to optimize their 401k plan. I'm Michelle Cates. I oversee business development and marketing at July Business Services. And with me, I have Ms. Teresa Conti, who is a retirement industry consultant and owner of True Strategy Consultant.
Thank you, Michelle, for having me today.
You bet. Couple of housekeeping items. Please feel free to insert any questions that you have in the chat feature. We'll be monitoring that chat feature throughout today's presentation. Today, we're going to cover strategies to increase 401k participation and enrollment. We're going to look at July's tools and resources, and then I'm going to give you guys a live demo of our enrollment system, which has a lot of cool bells and whistles in it. And with that, Teresa, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. So we're going to talk today. My piece of it is, how to get your employees to really participate in your plan, right? It's honestly one of the I think sometimes one of the hardest things, right? You offer this great plan, you want them to save for retirement, you want to save for retirement, and really getting them the help they need, right? Because they need to save for retirement. They need to have retirement savings, right? And I think some of their biggest questions are, how do I do it? And how much do I need to save? So we'll talk through a few of those, and we'll even talk through some of that from a generational perspective, because I want to bring up some differences there. I think the other thing, and we'll talk about this a little bit more too, is sometimes employees really need to understand like personal finance, right? They need to understand how saving for retirement plan fits into their budget. They don't understand anything about investing, right? So I think there's some basic information from those two standpoints that we can give them as well. They also need to understand the tax strategy. And when we're talking about tax strategy, they more need to understand why saving for retirement is good, right? Especially when they get to retirement and have this money. But how should they be saving now? Should they be saving pre-tax? Should they be saving Roth? And I'll talk through that a little bit more. And I think the last thing is sometimes making sure employees understand they're not too young or too old to save for retirement. Sometimes the younger people who come into businesses think, I'm too young. I don't need to worry about that now. I'm 22 years old. I got lots of time to retirement. But I think sometimes having that conversation can really help them. If when we go to the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about overall, and I just put some bullets here, so I'll talk through each of these a little bit more. But there's a lot of ways that we can use as plan sponsors to increase participation. The first is using an automatic enrollment feature. Back in the day when automatic enrollment came out, which is probably like 20 some years ago, I think it was 1996 or 1998 when it first came out. Right. Auto enrollment, people didn't want to use it. They didn't want to force employees to save. But I think what we found over the years is that the employees will save if you do that because it's the path of least resistance. It's harder for them to go out there and say, oh, I want to save 5% than if you just said, oh, we're going to automatically enroll at 5%. And they're like, oh, okay. They won't opt out, although they always have that option. So I think that is definitely one of the things we've seen. The statistics are that 90% of employees who are automatically enrolled in a plan stay in that. So it is a very valuable statistic with that. Secure 2.0 is the new legislation that came out a couple of years ago, and there have been some, things that are coming out each year. But just so you understand, if you started a plan after December of 2022, you would have to have automatic enrollment in your plan starting in 2025. And this is the way of the federal government trying to get more employers to have plans and get employees to participate. They also need one of the other big ways to increase participation is by offering an employer match. Probably a lot of you may already do that, but it's having that conversation with employees about how that works. One of the other trends we're seeing is removing long eligibility periods. Back in the day when I started in this business and I started my plan, right, we made people work there a year, we made people work there 1,000 hours, and we really more limited when they become eligible. In today's world, we're seeing us reduce those eligibility periods, right? That I come to work for you after my 90 days, I want to have that opportunity to save in the plan. And there's really no reason in today's world not to do that. There's some other design things we can do when we do those, when we lower those eligibility periods that really make it better for employees. And the other thing I think it does for employees there is that, I get to my year and I'm like, well, I haven't contributed all this time, so why should I contribute now versus really getting in right away, especially if they've come from another employer who had a plan. Another one is making enrollment easy. And Michelle's going to talk about some of this a little bit later, but that is really one of the biggest things is it needs to be easy for them to enroll. It needs to be easy for them to sign up. It needs to be easy for them, right? They need to be able to push that easy button. So I think there's definitely ways we can make that work. The other thing we can do is provide materials on enrollment, how, why, and other aspects of financial wellness. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more as well, but really helping them, providing them some information. When I'm talking materials, it may not be a printout. It may be, something you email to them or some other thing that an advisor may give them to really help with. And engaging the participants, really reminding the participants why you have a plan, why it's good for them, why saving for retirement's important, right? They need to have that relation so they understand that and they'll actually become better employees too, right? Having those opportunities, you reminding them of you providing this great benefit. One of the things is health insurance is the number one employee benefit employees want. Retirement plan is number two. So that is always definitely something to keep in mind and remind them of.
So Teresa, on that last item, engaging participants as it relates, someone asked about, maybe having those conversations outside of the annual enrollment period or maybe with the annual enrollment period instead of just at eligibility?
Yeah, I actually recommend that most of you probably have an advisor, a financial advisor who works with you on your plan. I would tell you to do it a few times a year. And there's so many ways you can do it in today's world. It's, information, it's a Zoom call, it's in person. There's so many more opportunities today than just somebody having to come and stand there and talk about the plan. I think there's way other things. And I'm going to talk about some of the other financial kind of wellness things that employees are interested in too. Did I answer the question, Michelle?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, let's go now and talk specifically about Gen Z and millennials. So when we talk about retirement, I think one of the things we need to keep in mind is that we actually have four groups, and some people would even say five groups of employees in today's world, right? We have Gen Z, we have millennials, we have Gen Y, and we also have baby boomers still in the job market. But I think some of these groups have some very specific needs or have a little bit different needs than other groups. So I always think keeping in mind who your group is and maybe even having the financial advisor do different meetings depending on where they're at in their world, right? So Gen Zs are about age 12 to 27, millennials are 28 to 43. So that is a wide range, but I think one of the things to remember here is a lot of those are right out of college, maybe getting married, maybe starting a family, right? And maybe even having some older kids who might still be in high school, but that you're still probably a family unit or starting a family or just getting out of school in those two groups. So when I talk about budgeting and reverse budgeting, we all know what budgeting is. But when we talk about reverse budgeting is figuring out what you should be saving first and paying yourself in the form of savings first. So that could be emergency savings. That could be the retirement plan. That's probably a combination. And a good financial advisor would be able to help them with that. And when you read some of the things in today's world, if you are familiar with somebody like Junior Achievement, they talk that number should be somewhere around 20% that you should be saving. So what we talk about reverse budgeting in today's world, we talk about doing that savings first, then doing your housing, then doing your other expenses, right? So you're always making sure that you're saving. The other thing those groups need to understand is that free money, the employer contributions, the matching you're making, those kind of things, right? And they need to understand that often they need to save for you to give them money as an employer. And why would they want to turn that away? But sometimes that conversation, I think, gets missed and they don't really realize. So if I save, 6% and my company matches me 4%, that really means I'm saving 10%, which is probably closer to the number I need to be at in order to make sure I'm ready for retirement. And a lot of people would say that's even higher, more like 12 to 15% is what I need. But they really need to understand that by not making contributions, if you're doing a match, that they are not getting that free money you're giving them. The other thing for this group, especially those Gen Zs, are a lot of them have student loan debt. And honestly, I shouldn't even say just Gen Zs because I think there's plenty of millennials that still have student loan debt as well, right? A lot of them feel that they can't save because they have that student loan debt. And there is some new stuff coming out about student loan debt where employers will have some more options, and some of that guidance is just coming to us now. So we don't really have that built in here yet, but you will see more coming about that. But that now the IRS allows us. So if I'm making student loan payments still, I can come to you as the employer and say, hey, I made all this in student loan payments and you could match me. Even though I'm not making contributions, they are allowing some of those things, right? So that they are not missing out on that free money. So they at least get some money started for retirement, even though they may be saddled with some student loan debt. So there are definitely some new things there. This group really doesn't understand investing and risk tolerance and those kind of things. So really making them understand that as well, or at least giving them some guidance, having a financial advisor who can help them do some of that and understand some of that. I think it's a big piece that's missing kind of in schools right now, right? Unless you're maybe a finance major in college or something. I think people just don't understand that as well and where they should be and what they should be doing. Pre-tax versus Roth. Again, should they be saving pre-tax or should they be saving Roth? As the plan sponsor, you may not necessarily be able to tell them that, but a financial advisor could help them work through that. And I'll tell you the statistic kind of is that they're starting in their career, they're probably lower paid, that they should probably be doing Roth because later in retirement, they'd have money tax-free. So definitely something for them to think about. My last bullet here, what is their number and how to get there, I think is really one of the biggest things that holds them back. They have no idea what their number needs to be. And let's say that number needs to be, $1.5 million when they turn 65 and they're 28 now. They have no idea what they should be saving each year to get to that number at the end. Again, a good financial advisor or some help there can really help them understand what that looks like and how to get there. So I think that there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle here that we need to put together for especially those two groups. Michelle, did we have any other questions?
No questions, but I have one comment. So on your
Sure.
pre-tax versus Roth, just speaking from personal experience, very recently. So my youngest daughter just graduated with a degree in finance and just started, she just enrolled in her retirement plan with her new employer. And even coming out of college, I had to explain with a finance degree, I had to explain to her the Roth and pre-tax concept and why it's important for her to contribute at a Roth only right now, and then maybe change or flip that as she gets older into higher tax brackets. So your point is definitely spot on as these young adults are coming out of college. Just putting the words pre-tax and Roth in front of them, they just don't understand.
Right. They don't understand how it affects them today and how to affect them later.
Yep.
And that's part of the decision-making process, right? And I think that's part of the thing is when we talk about enrollment strategies, they don't understand all these things. So it's sometimes overwhelming for them to be able to say, yeah, I'll participate, but I don't really understand what I'm doing, right? So having a better understanding helps them understand. I want to spend a minute next talking about some specific needs for women. As a woman in this industry for a long, long time, this is a subject that's very near and dear to my heart. And I will tell you that there's definitely some very interesting things when it comes to women, right? More than half of women in this country are not saving anything for retirement. So I think a lot of times women think that, maybe their husband controls the budget or something else is going on with there, but a lot of women are not saving. So to me, they definitely have a special need there. Women are behind in savings, the women who are saving, for a few reasons. One is because there often is a pay gap. A lot of times, and not always, but a lot of times women are paid less or in a lower paying job. And that overall will ultimately make a difference, right? If I make less and I'm saving 5% and Michelle makes more and she's saving 5%, of course she'll have more, right? Because she's getting paid more. There's that pay gap issue. So it's not always true clearly, but we have found that, when we look at some of those statistics, that is, definitely something that has to be considered. And then of course we're saving less, and that compounding of the monies we save, of the interest we earn, of those kind of things, right, will ultimately mean we've saved less. The other thing that comes into this is that often women may only work part-time and not have access to a retirement plan, right? A lot of times if women work part-time because of the kids or other reasons, right, they may not have that access. Although some of the changes in the Secure 2.0 legislation that I talked about before would now allow them to save. So definitely something you need to be aware of and something you should be thinking about. When we talk about investing gap, there's a lot of research out there that say women are less risk tolerant, right? Which means that they may not want to save as aggressively as men. I'm not sure I personally 100% agree with that, but I also understand that women are sometimes afraid to tie up their money. I might need cash for something for the kids. I might need this, right? And if I put it in this retirement plan or I do this, right, I may not have easy access to it. So women are a little bit more afraid of kind of that investing, kind of taking that risk in investments, sometimes even putting that money away, worried about, do I need that money now? Another one is caregiving. So you may not think caregiving comes into this, but I will tell you, if I took 5 years off to have my kids and stay home with them when they were little, even if I go back to work full time, I missed those 5 years. I missed those 5 years of savings, right? So it's all these things that add up for women in why their account balances are typically overall less. So we have to kind of give a little bit special, and I think working with a good financial advisor who can really make them understand that this is important is definitely something they should talk about. Another thing is longevity. Women on average live 5 years longer than men. So they're actually going to need more money in retirement than men are. So just something to keep in mind there when we're looking at kind of those rules and those things. Another thing that happens is divorce, which I know this sounds crazy to talk about this here, but the divorce rate for those over the age of 50 has doubled since 1990. I mean, that's a huge thing, and it can affect the retirement savings, right? If I get divorced, I might have less time to save, right? Because now, let's say I'm, 30 years old and I get divorced and I have a couple of young kids, I may not be able to afford to save, right? It's all those things when we talk about divorce and other things that can impact them, right? So definitely something to keep in mind when we're talking about that. And when we talk about best practices, we should really talk about them, right? We should, even if they save 1 or 2% more than they think they can, right? Helping them track their progress, knowing where they want to be, right? All those kind of things are really some of the best practices that we should look at, particularly when we talk about women. And I'm talking about this as women, but this is real, could be true for men too. I just know that these are some of the things that have really come out in some recent surveys and research that I've seen, and definitely something to think about. Any questions there, Michelle? Or are we good?
No questions, just completely agree. And I think as employers, just creating awareness around the potential gaps is super important because women may not even realize that they took time off, or maybe they're taking care of parents and they're not deferring as much or going through a hard time in a divorce or whatever. And just basic awareness may help them make some pretty significant changes in their savings patterns.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Let's talk next. So I've mentioned some statistics. So these are some things that came out of a few things I found from Empower, JP Morgan. There's lots of great information out there. But this is, this kind of solidifies the things I was telling you, right? 39% of employees say their employers don't offer them enough financial planning, right? And the employers can do that. Financial advisor does that, but having a good financial advisor who can help can help with this, right? 48% consider financial coaching a must-have, and 52% believe their employer should offer more opportunities to increase their financial literacy. Again, we're not just talking about a financial advisor talking about the plan. It's all aspects. How can I get there? How can I save more? How do I make that work? Right? All those kind of things. I talked about automatic enrollment right off the bat. 90% of respondents have favorable or neutral views about automatic enrollment and automatic escalation. So for those of you who don't know what automatic escalation is, it means, okay, we have automatic enrollment in our plan. We automatically enroll you at 4%. But next January 1st, when we do that, we're going to increase it 1% more, right? So that's an automatic escalation that may go up 1% a year until we get to like 10% or something. That makes it a lot easier in some ways for employees to swallow, right? That gradual increase that maybe they don't even recognize as much. But 90% do stay in plans when you use automatic enrollment. So definitely something to think about. And then 71% of employees said that they consider employer match to be an important benefit. Again, I told you healthcare is number one benefit, retirement plan is number two, and an employer match can be very important to them and help them really want to save more for retirement. Finally, I talked here about just a few action items, just a few things that you should think about if you haven't, and if you haven't done a review of your plan, it may be a good time to do that, right? Do we need any plan design changes? Do you want to add auto enrollment? Do you want to change eligibility to let people in more quickly? Are some of the other things that you may want to consider, out there that maybe you don't know about? So definitely something we can talk to you about. Employer match changes, additions, increases. We saw a lot of clients stop matching, during COVID, and now some are bringing it back. If you haven't brought it back yet, might be something for you to consider. And there's lots of different matches you can do. You can do safe harbor. You can do a discretionary match. You can do a lot of different things. So there's a lot of options out there for you. Communicating. Communicating is so important when it comes to your plan. So emails, presentations, in person, one-on-ones with the financial advisor. The employees love that. It gives them the opportunity to figure out where they are and where they need to be, and maybe and some tips on how to get there. Education also includes tips on tax issues, income planning, Social Security, things that they can consider. But, there's always been that talk about Social Security. Is it going to be there when they retire? And you have to wonder, especially for those really younger generations, what is going to happen? I mean, I don't see how they can do anything with it, but I don't think you can count on it either. So you may need to figure that out. And my final thing there is generational differences, right? Be strategic about what these different groups need. I told you there's Gen Y, there's millennials, there's Gen Z, and there's boomers, all in the job market today, and they all have different needs. So definitely something to think about, and maybe even have the financial advisor tailor some of that communications to these different groups, depending on what's going, right? Boomers are going to be way closer to retirement. And if they haven't saved enough, now may be the time to really sock it away, and the younger people may have student loan debt, but maybe there's other things they can do. So there's definitely differences there between the groups of employees we have in today's job market. So I think that is it for me. If there's any other questions, I am happy to answer them. I'm going to stick around, and if there's any questions while Michelle is going, we're happy to answer those as well, or if you think of something later.
Right. Thanks, Teresa. Moving over to the resources. So thinking about it from a plan sponsor advisor perspective, what resources can help you kind of determine the health of the plan, groups of employees that may need assistance? And we have a variety of different types of reports and tools on the plan sponsor website, and then also through the enrollment website. So on the plan sponsor, just the landing page in itself, there's different tabs on there where you can look at not only the plan summary, but you can look at participation statistics, activity, loan summary, investment history. So just knowing that, you may go out there to upload payrolls, you may go out there to pull a quarterly plan report. There are many other types of reports and tools that will really help you dissect your plan. The general plan statistics, this is your landing page. Again, you're going to have just information on the left side here about, where are the investments. And then if you look, there's various tabs up here on the upper right. If you have a plan that you want, you can break stuff out by division, employees, you can look at activity. So I think some of these lighter colored tabs may go unnoticed. So just wanted to bring it all to your attention. The plan sponsor website, you can also drill down and look at employee information. So if Mr. James Smith comes to your office, he has a question, you have viewing access to his account and can have more of a financial literacy conversation with the individual. Under forms and reports, here you have your quarterly report, summary of accounts, contribution rates. Again, there's probably more than you've ever seen or wanted to look at, but just looking and running these on a periodic basis may help open your eyes to maybe some deficiencies in your plan, diversification, various groups not participating at a high level, and may help you target some individuals who may need assistance, but may be afraid to ask. Beneficiary summary reports if needed. These are just samples of the reports that I
Michelle,
just
we
taught.
did
Yes.
have a question. Somebody wanted to know if you have a presentation like this you can share with new hires, or maybe I think they're asking kind of like an enrollment demo type thing.
So we do. We have and I can probably have it sent out after this. We have a list of demos that are pre-recorded. We have them that are plan sponsor facing, so that you as a plan sponsor can view the plan sponsor website, the client advisor portal. And then we also have a participant website demo. They're really short, probably 15, 20-minute videos, and we'll send those out as part of follow-up to this. Thank you, Teresa. More plan sponsor reports. So one thing I really want to point out is the quarterly plan reports. And these are something that July produces outside of our software and posts them to your account every quarter. There is so much great information in these reports. You'll have information high level at a glance. We'll provide you participation statistics. We'll even compare your plan against industry benchmarks so that you can see, is your participation rate high? Is your average account balance rate too low? And just kind of let you know, how does your plan stack up against plans of similar size? Also, there's this plan features and services. So here we're going to check the services that you're taking advantage of, and then we're unchecking services that you're not taking advantage of. So if you're not sure if you have auto escalation, or you're not sure if you have automatic enrollment in your plan, this quarterly plan report will have those checked. And if you have a committee meeting at all, or want to meet with your advisor or your relationship manager here at July, we can certainly go through this report with you and then point out some of the items that you're not taking advantage of that could help your participant population. And let's look at more tools for your employees. So enrollment. So I mentioned that we have this really cool, robust enrollment tool, and I have screenshots here, but I'm going to escape and I'm going to go into a live demo. Oh, I think I just escaped the, well, let me try again here. 1 second. Share.
Yeah, we're still all on, so you're good there.
Okay,
You did escape
good.
us all.
There we go. Okay.
It helps.
So you have your client advisor portal. And so when you log into that, this is just a sample plan. But you may have not noticed, or maybe you did notice, you have this review enrollment. So you all have access to kind of look at the enrollment experience that your employees have. It's just like a demo type of enrollment. So again, we have the registration. Typically, when an employee enrolls for the first time, they're going to set up their accounts, their emails, multi-factor authentication, all of that cool stuff. And then they get to the registration page. They can opt out of the plan. If all the information is correct, they click next. If the plan has automatic enrollment, we're going to outline those automatic enrollment features right off the bat. Hey, Mr. Participant, congratulations. You're eligible to participate in your plan. And by the way, you have automatic enrollment. And with automatic enrollment, these are your defaults. Do you want to accept these defaults or do you want to customize? So throughout the tool, we try to make it more wizard-like and kind of walk the individual through the experience. So let's go through customize. So down here at the bottom, we have a couple of short videos. Why should I participate? How do I choose my investments? How much should I save? A Roth account might be right for you. A great 1-minute video on things to consider when choosing Roth and pre-tax. When you click customize your enrollment, there's going to be all kinds of information. All of these little question marks are going to have additional definitions, additional elaboration on what that means. Here on the left is where the individual can select their contribution rates, their Roth contribution rates. As they're looking and making these types of changes over here on the right, we're going to calculate what does their paycheck look like without a 401k deferral and with a 401k deferral. If somebody dips down below that matching threshold, we're going to pop up a message. Hey, Mr. Participant, you need to contribute at least 5% so you don't leave any money on the table. And we had that pre-tax and Roth conversation earlier. We have provided some high-level education. We don't guide them on what to choose. We certainly don't know what an individual's tax or personal situation is, but we try to talk to them and let them know what does it look like today, thinking about what it might look like in the future. Will taxes go up or down? Will your tax rate increase? Will your tax rate decrease as you age? Once they've made their elections and they're comfortable with it, the next section is investments. Again, we try to walk that individual. Depending on what the plan has will depend on which one of these cards are illustrated. Does your plan have target date funds? Does your plan have risk-based portfolios? If so, then these cards will show up and then will help that individual choose a risk-based or an age-based portfolio. And we typically will highlight a target date fund. They, of course, can access the performance expense information, anything available. Anything and everything is available. One thing that's kind of cool in the enrollment side is that we provide an investor profile questionnaire. Maybe the individual isn't sure what type of investor they are. So they can go through and answer 7 really simple, easy questions. And then it's going to say, great, you're moderately aggressive. When they do this, we're going to highlight either a risk-based portfolio, or if they're in the core fund lineup, we'll show them the types of investments that might match that risk tolerance. So as Teresa mentioned, educating them on risk tolerance, sending them to the enrollment website, letting them play with these tools and calculators will help kind of put their tolerance into perspective. I think that is pretty much, they select their beneficiaries. Automatic investment rebalance, automatic contribution increases. These are all things that they can choose if the plan allows. If they want to roll over assets from a prior plan, maybe they're a new employee, we provide the instructions right here. And then when everything is set and done, we allow them to go back and make any changes. But here's a summary page. Super easy. They get pushed into the system. We either communicate that election directly with your payroll provider, or we push that election information back to you to insert into your payroll software, payroll system.
So Michelle, I had a question. So is
Yeah.
that available? It's not just available on like a computer, it's available on their phone as well. It's the same, it looks the same. It's completely available there as well, right?
It is, absolutely. So it's the enrollment experience is not through the July app, it's through the July enrollment system, and all the information, the quick start guides that we send them notify the user of that. And then all of this configures and shrinks and modifies so that it fits nicely. It looks nicely on your tablet or your phone.
Perfect. So the other question we had is, you're speaking to this guidance for new employees. Can current employees get the same guidance?
So with current employees, it is a little bit different. So if they have an account balance today, then in order to access the risk tolerance questionnaire, they would need to call our participant services and we could send it to them. And then we have not integrated all of these types of widgets and tools into an existing account, if you will. But we certainly have other types of calculators out there on the participant website.
Perfect.
How much should I contribute? Roth and pre-tax and all of that's available. Going to flip back over here, get back into talked about the enrollment tool. We have enrollment guides, and we also have a PowerPoint for enrollment meetings. So if you are hosting annual enrollment meeting and need some additional tools and resources to share or to present, we have all of this already crafted and created. Just reach out to your client service manager and we can get it to you. So My Future Retirement, this is another really cool widget that's on the existing participant website. So we have the enrollment, and then now, as Teresa mentioned, you're in the plan. What can I do to look at my account, look at my financial situation? So our tool is called My Future Retirement. It's an online planning tool. It helps plan and forecast retirement income, and it shows an individual their progress towards retirement. It's this first, when they log in, it'll be this first card on the participant website. And initially, it's going to project their monthly income at retirement using their existing account balance, deferral rate, and any demographic information that we have. There it is. When they click on review strategy, that will take them and they have to agree. It takes them to like a little separate little widget, but they can actually take a deeper dive into their retirement income analysis. So this next section, it really that the widget will allow them to update personal information. It'll allow them to modify and bring in outside accounts, estimate their Social Security benefits, and provide them a really comprehensive overview of their retirement situation. We also, on the website, we have retirement calculators. And Teresa, to your question again, how much do you need to save for retirement? How much are you spending? What is your risk tolerance? So while they can ask participant services for the one that's on the enrollment, we have this one that's available to them at any time. How much will increasing their contribution affect their take-home pay? Videos. We have on our julyservices.com under the participant section a whole host of videos. Feel free to borrow, steal, include these videos or links to these videos in your employee newsletters. Just send out an email blast and include these videos. Choose one a month, one a quarter at any time. Just creating that constant awareness will certainly help that individual think more about their savings plan and will absolutely increase participation. Mobile app, certainly available for Android and iOS users. And finally, when participants, maybe they've terminated and they have a small account balance, they're forced out, or they have a small account balance and don't really know what to do. July does offer an IRA, the July IRA, where we assist them with moving their account from the plan to an IRA, and it's managed by our team. It actually has a list of investments that are monitored for the participants to choose from. We certainly, if they have larger account balances, want them reaching out to their financial advisor. But for individuals with small balances, this seems to work fairly well. And I think I'm going to pause. Do we have any questions or comments or?
We don't have any that I have not asked you, but we have time for a couple if anybody has any questions.
I felt like I went through the enrollment a little quick. I didn't think I had that much time. Usually it's quite a lengthy process going through all the different questionnaires and options, but it's just a fabulous tool that guides individuals through choices. To me, the biggest takeaway, Teresa, is just communication and awareness and creating some
Absolutely.
buzz.
Absolutely. And making sure they understand why it is important to save. We didn't talk about this, Michelle, but one of the things I know you and I have talked about is how sometimes employees, you know, put money in their child's 529 plan instead of saving for retirement, right? And we have talked about that a few times, and how it is important, of course, to have a place for your children to be able to go to college, but it's also important for you to have savings for retirement. And you and I would probably say it's more important to have savings for retirement. Kids can take scholarships and other things, but I get it both ways, but I don't think people should just leave that all. So just kind of our 2 cents there. I'm speaking for you, but I know we've talked about it. So
Absolutely, completely agree with that.
yeah. So I don't think we have any other questions out
Okay.
here. Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you, Michelle, for having me today.
Thank you, Teresa. Absolutely appreciate it. Love presenting with you especially on topics that we are very passionate about.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks everyone. Have a great afternoon. Have a great extended holiday weekend. And please reach out to your relationship manager. Please reach out to me or Teresa if we can help you in any way. Thank you so much.